What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into TTP Sports. And it's been a little bit since we talked the Flyers. Really, I would say since probably the Vancouver or the Seattle game, probably after the Seattle game. It's been a little bit since we talked Flyers hockey. And the product lately really just hasn't been the best. They only have one win in their last 7 games, which I just found that out after tonight, just because it does feel like they still find ways to get points. But they do get a loser point in this game. It was just this is a game that you needed to get 2 out of in regulation. You have a 2-0 lead against the Columbus Blue Jackets, who are not a good hockey team. And yes, you're coming home from a very long road trip after the Christmas break. You're playing in 4 different cities. You're traveling all across, from 2 different countries at this point. Between US and Canada, you go from Vancouver to Seattle, then you have to cross the border again to go to Calgary, then you go to Edmonton. So you're basically just all around Canada at this point. So yeah, that it definitely is a lot of traveling in a very short amount of time. I believe it was 4 games in 6 days or something like that. Excuse me. So yeah, that definitely is taxing on the body, taxing on a lot of things, and of course the first game you come back home after a long road trip, it definitely isn't going to look like the prettiest thing in the world, and that probably is the best explanation that you can have for tonight's game, but it still just kind of reminds me of the past few games a little bit too much to where the process just isn't the best. They don't look sharp out there on the ice. They're making mistakes, which they normally didn't make a lot, during the stretches when they were winning. They're struggling to score goals again. Obviously, the power play still sucks. They had a 2-minute 5-on-3 power play in the first period of this game at the end of the first period, which if they just had a borderline average power play and they scored maybe 1 or 2 goals on that power play, they win this game. They win this game bottom line. But still, I firmly believe if you have a 2-0 lead in the third period against the Columbus Blue Jackets, you still should find a way to win the game. They make it a 2-1 game directly after Konechny scores that nice goal. He gets 2 goals on the night, so that's great for him. He gets selected to the All-Star game, even though I can care less about the NHL All-Star game. Still a good accomplishment for him. The first goal, definitely, Ersson said he would want back if, it was a breakdown in the Flyers' defensive zone, one-timer. Ersson just couldn't catch up to it. The second goal, I really don't put on him just because, yeah, at face value, it looks like just a harmless shot that, just beats him. And that's something that the goaltender has to have back. But when you're looking at the replay and you're looking at it super slow-mo, when I believe it was Roslovic for Columbus who shot the puck, just coming into the zone, just throwing a puck on net. You see on the replay that it goes off of the stick of Jake Bean, who's driving the net as well. So it's like Roslovic shoots the puck, he's right in front of a Flyer defender, and Jake Bean's stick is in between one of the legs of the Flyers player that's in front of Roslovic. It goes off of Bean's stick, it redirects up high where Ersson is expecting a shot to come down low, and he's already on his, basically in his lower position, and he's not able to stop a puck that's going up high into the corner of the net. And that's how the game gets tied there. And honestly, there could have been many other situations where Columbus took the lead in that third period. The Flyers were dead tired in that third period. They had no legs. They were flat-footed. They were just playing on their heels. Basically, after, Konechny made it 2-0. They were on their heels a lot during this game. The Flyers did get off to a good start. There were a lot of situations where they were just throwing pucks on net. I really didn't think they had a lot of shots on net tonight. They had 41 shots total. A lot of the chances didn't really feel dangerous. Really, the only dangerous ones were, you had a couple of, breakaways in that third period. Couturier had a chance. Cam York had a chance where he got stoned by the goaltender. But really, there weren't many dangerous chances. The first Konechny goal was a beautiful pass by Joel Farabee. The second goal was just a great play by Konechny. So, yeah, you could definitely consider those dangerous chances, and definitely those 2 breakaways that you got in the third period. But really, nothing else much. A lot of the saves for the Columbus netminder were just very easy. Not many bodies in front of the net, and if there was a rebound in sight, there was no Flyer in the vicinity to even pick up that rebound. So it was a very simple night in net, even though he did face 40-plus shots, the Columbus netminder did. But like I said, most of the chances for the Flyers just weren't that dangerous. They threw a lot of pucks on net tonight, and even with the total shots that they had on net, it probably felt like they could have had more because that's just how much it felt like they were throwing pucks to the net, and not many of their shots were hitting the net in general. It was like either going yay wide, or it gets deflected, or it gets blocked, or you just flat out miss the net. That's what it felt like a little bit on that 5-on-3. You know, basically on during that sequence of the 5-on-3, you're basically playing 5-on-2.5 because one of the Columbus defenders sticks breaks for like 10-15 seconds, and he can't get back to the bench to get a new stick because the Flyers are keeping the puck in the offensive zone. But they really don't do anything with it. And then Owen Tippett, he tries to walk into space, get into the slot, throw a puck on net, but it's the easiest save in the world. He throws a glove side, and it's just easy, too easy for the goaltender. And it just, like I said, basically throughout the entire night, their chances just weren't dangerous. Not really. The second period was basically more of the same as the first period. Flyers just trying to throw as many pucks as net on possible. Nothing really dangerous. A lot of their shots missed the net. Can't, score on a power play, excuse me, there. But it just kind of felt like this was one of those games where you're not cashing in on your opportunities, you're not generating enough chances, and it's only a 1-0 game. And if you didn't score on that 5-on-3, it would have been a different situation. But you not scoring on that 5-on-3, it allows Columbus to hang around in the game. You let them hang around in the game basically throughout the entire second period. And once you get into that third period, maybe you thought things would break the other way when TK gets that second goal of the game, and then it just completely flip-flops in the other direction. You just completely lost momentum directly after Columbus scored that first goal, and that was seconds after Konechny scored his, like literally just under a minute. It just can't happen like that. You can't break down defensively like that, especially against this type of Columbus team. But yes, I know they have a lot of young talent. They got Johnny Gaudreau, they got all this stuff, but they're technically worse than you in the standings. So you should be falling to a team like this, just in my opinion. But overall, if I'm looking at face value, no, I'm not mad about the loss. That was my emotional tie. That was my expectations coming into the year. We all knew this was going to be a rebuilding season. We all knew there was a process going along. Danny Briere, Keith Jones, John Tortorella. They had goals set in mind. Excuse me, I keep hiccuping. It's like, seriously, I got the coughs and now I got the hiccups. My God. I did eat before this, so that's probably the reason why. But, you know, lost my train of thought for a second. But yes, John Tortorella, Danny Briere, Keith Jones, they've had goals set in mind basically from the get-go of the beginning of the season and looking towards the future of this team. And I think we all expected as Flyers fans for this to be a rebuilding year. It's still technically a rebuilding year, regardless of the record that they have. Excuse me. I gotta get it out. I gotta get it out. Oh my God, excuse me. It's just not the best performance here, boys. Not the best performance here from myself tonight. And maybe that does replicate what the orange and black did out there on the ice tonight. But in a rebuilding year, the expectations, there really isn't any expectations. You want to see the progression of the youth. You want to see how this team takes strides in a different direction. And yes, there's definitely been many positives throughout the year. Many positives. And there's been a lot of great things with the way the process has been going, with how competitive this team has been, how they don't, constantly give up. They always give you 150% each and every night. They go out there and compete. They go out there and play hard. And they play a 4-line game, and that everybody finds their way to contribute. And it's pulled off into the record that you have right now in January. You're in a playoff spot, but right now with the way that you're not getting points and the way that you are not winning games, who knows, you might fall out of a playoff spot in the near future. And there also is a question that, is this team just finally hitting a wall that we probably expected them to hit that wall a very long time ago? It definitely could be part of the question. We do have to see how this team, bounces back after this game, even though I did you know, prolong that question. How is this team going to bounce back after that long road trip? And definitely this isn't a good start to that process. Even though they did get the point out of this game, you needed 2 points. You needed 2 points out of this game. But still, like I said, I don't throughout the course of this season, I'm not going to get mad at losses. I'll be ecstatic over wins, but when you're in a season with, barely any expectations, the losses really aren't going to matter as much. You want to see how the team progresses each and every night. And the way that this team has been playing probably since the Seattle game, because even though they did lose that game in overtime, they did find a way to record a point out of that. They got, 3 points, 3 or 4 points in that back to back with Vancouver and Seattle. Basically, since then, the Calgary game on New Year's Eve, that game was very sloppy when you had a lead in that game. The Edmonton game, you found a way to tie it up, but then, it was just a sloppy night. Connor McDavid completely torched you the entire night. I believe he had like 4 or 5 points that night. Connor McDavid was just on a completely different level, and maybe that's to be expected when you play against a top-tier talent like a Connor McDavid. It's just absolutely ridiculous at that point with the way that he went off against you. I believe it was on Tuesday. And just overall, it was, not the best end to the road trip. And I guess, that long road trip, it dwindled down. You come home and you don't play your best brand of hockey. And that's the result that we got tonight. But, only having one win in your last 7 games, that even dates back to even before the Christmas break. If we're talking about, our last win even before the win against Vancouver, one win in the last 7. That win was the overtime win against the New Jersey Devils. And if you look at the games, following that, it was a 4-2 loss against the Nashville Predators, the 7-6 shootout loss against the Detroit Red Wings when you came back down from 5-1. You beat Vancouver. You lost in overtime to Seattle. You lost 4-3 to Calgary. And then you lost 5-2 to Edmonton, and now you've lost 3-2 to Columbus. And in the past so many games, so I'm going to go back, 7 games or something like that, you've recorded 2 points. No, actually, the past 7 games, I would assume that also includes the Nashville and the Detroit game. So you get 2 points here, 4 points with the 2 overtime losses to Seattle and Detroit. And you also got 1 point tonight against Columbus. So that's 5 points. So that's 5 points out of a possible 14. So yeah, that definitely isn't the best stretch of hockey. I did the math in my head. If you want to say in the comment section if I got that wrong, definitely put that in the comment section, because it definitely is simple math. It should be 5 points out of 14. But yeah, they definitely haven't been the best. They definitely haven't looked the best. So, and the schedule really does not get any, much easier from here. They play Calgary again this Saturday afternoon at the Wells Fargo Center. They play the Pittsburgh Penguins, who have definitely played a lot better lately. They play a young Montreal team next week. All these are home games. And then they go on another road trip, 3 games to the Central Division. Minnesota, Winnipeg, those 2 games are back-to-backs on a Friday and a Saturday. And they play Monday the 15th in St. Louis. And then they got a 4-game homestand, which is going to be some very tough games. They got Dallas, they got Colorado, they got Tampa Bay, they got Ottawa. They also mix in Boston in there, then a road game in Detroit. So yeah, the schedule, as you're just going through basically the middle of January to the end of January, even into February, it just gets tough. It gets tougher from here. And we got to see what this team is made of going down the stretch. But like I said, the most important thing for me really is the process and the way that they play these games. I'm not going to get, like I said, I'm not going to get too enamored in them losing games. I'm more just going to be upset with the way that it looks. And that was definitely the summary of what it was tonight. It wasn't a pretty game. It was a very sloppy game, even for both teams. Columbus did wake up in that third period and they played good hockey. But basically, throughout the entire 60 minutes, it was just consistent, slop, garbage. It just wasn't a good hockey game. Wasn't a good hockey game. And that's probably one of the worst things you can watch is a bad hockey game where nothing's really happening. Both teams just don't look meh, in my honest opinion. That's just what it felt like tonight. And I guess that's the result we got. And it turned out losing in a shootout, and even the overtime sometimes for this Flyer squad. I don't think they know how to properly overtime. It's just sometimes they take risks when they shouldn't take it. Like one guy during a line change, he'll try to go through 2 people while he probably should be holding on to the puck and resetting for his guys to come off of the bench. Or they just take a stupid shot and they lose possession. Or they try to take a risk when they shouldn't. It's just, they take weird risks in the overtime. And they don't properly do it. And maybe they're probably taking those extra risks just because they don't have the level of talent to completely take over in overtime like some of the other teams in the league can. But that's another discussion for another day. Who knows? Maybe the power play will be saved when Couturier gets here. And if anyone watched the USA versus Finland semifinal game today, Couturier with the clutch power play goal with like 5 minutes left in the third period to send USA to the gold medal game against Sweden in the World Juniors. So that'll be fun to watch. I believe that is going to be tomorrow afternoon, if I'm not mistaken. It's tomorrow or Saturday. It's one of those days. Honestly, I probably should look that up just to, make sure of everything there. But it definitely is going to be some fun stuff. Couturier, I think, actually leads the entire World Junior tournament in points, and he isn't playing his best hockey, in my honest opinion. He's honestly, showcasing a lot more of his playmaking ability. He has more assists than he has goals. That goal that he scored today was only his second of the entire tournament. So, honestly, I think that's even a better thing. That he's showing off his playmaking skills and he's putting up that many points against, very great international competition when, he's not playing his best hockey. Imagine when he does play his best hockey. Imagine when he took over for Team USA when they went to the World Championships during the summer. Imagine if that could be the case. Oh boy. Oh boy. When Matvey Michkov comes over. Whew. Don't get me excited. Don't get me excited for Flyers hockey, man. But today wasn't a reason to get excited for Flyers hockey. But we'll see how this team responds on a Saturday night. I'm trying to see if there's anything here from John Tortorella before we end the game off. I'm not sure if anything's happening. I also did forget to mention about the game tonight was a healthy scratching of Morgan Frost and Cam Atkinson. I have no issue with it. I have no issue with it at all. Cam Atkinson hasn't scored a goal since November 11th, and Morgan Frost, he's just constantly going to be in towards his doghouse, and Morgan Frost, future with the Flyers definitely isn't guaranteed. I would assume, I wouldn't be shocked if he gets traded anytime soon, whether it's this season, whether it's the off season. I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked at all. So I have no issue with it at all. Trying to see if there's anything else here. A lot of people are really just asking Torts about the benching of Atkinson. And he said, one person asked, was it difficult to bench Atkinson? He said, nope. Nope. I mean, it shouldn't be. Shouldn't be that difficult. So, yeah. Flyers lose 3-2 to Columbus in the shootout. They get a loser point. The process hasn't been the best lately. Only one win in the last 7 games. They got 5 points in those 7 games. But I think this team could be playing a lot better. But there's also a question here. Has this team finally hit a wall? And are they finally coming back down to earth? I guess we'll just have to see as the schedule progresses as we get later on into the season. So that is going to do it for tonight, everybody. Thank you for viewing whenever you choose to view this, whether it's tonight, whether it's, overnight into your trip to work and everything like that. I appreciate you to leave a comment in the comment section down below, nor forgetting to drop a like and also hitting that subscribe button. It does me a great deal of service. And also use the code TTPSPORTS, $20 off your first purchase. That's SeatGeek. Great deal. Don't pass it up. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. I'll see you next time.